when I was a kid. I watched B.D. Wong when he was in Jurassic Park, and James Hong, of course, in Big Trouble in Little China. So, oh my gosh, my heart is like literally racing right now. So,
Michael, where are you? Where in the country are you?
I'm in California, actually.
Yes,
Yes.
your environment really reminds me of my mother's house, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
In the Bay Area.
So what's this Nerds of Color? What is that?
So it's a website that specifically writes and posts about underrepresented minorities in media. So that we want to be sure to share their stories and everything else like that. So it's important.
Oh yeah, you don't have like I was in Revenge of the Nerds. Are you that type, or what is it? Huh? What makes you so-called nerds? Being a
what
nerd?
makes me a nerd? Well, I just enjoy doing like all this stuff, watching movies, consuming all forms of entertainment and media. And I just, especially when I get to see myself through these characters on the screen, it's such a joy.
Mm-hmm.
So
when James, when he first came on and the Zoom came on and you saw his reaction, that was the nerd.
Yeah.
But you know, for me, because I'm a nerd too, it's just you never let the child in you die.
Yes.
You know, you just
no, looking at all this stuff. Yeah.
You're fascinated. You know, there's just always this enthusiasm
yes.
for things that make you happy.
Verging on obsession. Yeah.
Yes, it can for sure, but in a good way.
Yeah. Well, Michael, what did you do recently that was nerdy?
What did I do that?
Well, left, so let's talk Gremlins. Come on, we
5 minutes left. Okay.
Oh
my gosh.
Michael, Gremlins.
Okay, so let's go. Well, I particularly grew up watching your careers evolve in a positive, in a way that we can see ourselves in Asian representation. So I was just wondering, through your multiple roles that you've had, whether it's through superheroes or scientists, what does it mean for you to see that sort of change and evolution in Asian representation?
It's incredible. I really have a context for it now as I'm getting older and feeling, and actually this Gremlins project is the perfect example. When Gremlins first came out, there was a lack of representation that was just palpable. We were invisible. We struggled with being seen or with getting jobs as actors. And then since the time that project came out and we are doing this project, a sensibility of representation has occurred. We have a word, representation, diversity. These are words we use in conversations that we did not use before. And now this project is celebrating the Chinese aspect of the Gremlin story and fleshing it out and giving us all not only employment, but characters that kids can watch and relate to as a family and as heroes and as people that are driving the story. And these are things that never happened when I was a kid. So just right there, I feel that that's really important.
Yeah. Well, when I first saw the first episode, right away the sets were very well constructed and very artistic. So I like to congratulate the producers, the writers, creating this story sort of out of the ordinary. You know, it's the kind of thing that makes people interested in watching the culture of a different country in animation. You know, so it's we've seen it in live action, but in animation to create everything, all the details, the colors, and the fact that these writers and directors can create these little things that jump out all over the place. I'm sure the audience is going to really appreciate it.
Go ahead.
Well, I mean, for me, I just want to add that, you know, Gremlins, when it first came out, it was a massive hit and I loved it. But it took our story and kind of like then focused it on, you know, white suburbia with that story. And Mr. Wing was sort of sidelined. And
Definitely.
even, you know, Keanu did his best to add as much dignity to that role as possible. He was never a main character. And so I just love that they took this mysterious character and was able to now branch it and give the service of storytelling that it deserves, because Mogwai is our, our culture, our heritage, our mythology. And I just love that they did it with such clever twist of making it, having it be his origin story.
And so organic, I mean, they
Yes.
didn't have to force anything. That was all
No.
there. And actually emblematic of the way that people borrow from us all the time, borrow from our culture, borrow from our story, and then make it a part of something, but not let it be owned by us. And so this is us owning it in a way. And so it's fantastic.
Yeah, well, that's why I like my character as grandfather, because he knows it all,
Yeah.
He knows the Chinese culture. He's been there, he's seen everything, and he wants to tell the audience, if not his own family, about this secret, But finally, the people pay attention to him. So he keeps talking like in life. I talk a lot and people don't believe me, but finally they realize I know the truth.
Oh yeah, you know your
and
stuff.
You better listen.
I have only one more question left. So everyone here plays parents in this series. So what's it like to as at least voice these characters who are subverting these stereotypical Asian parents that was portrayed in media before? This is because I was really excited for you. Yeah.
Really exciting. Really exciting to play a strong man who is the husband of a strong woman, and for him to be in working around her passion and energy and moving off of it and being afraid of it actually, and for them to be kind of trying to be co-parents at the same time and sharing those sensibilities. That's really fresh. I think I really liked that.
And they're parents to not just Sam, they're really parents to Grandpa too. Which adds to the humor.
As one does, yeah.
Yeah, because Grandpa is such a mischievous character, and yet he is the impetus for how every adventure now takes form and takes place in each episode.
Yes.
Right, Grandpa, we owe it all to you.
We all had to, you wouldn't be here without you. So yeah. Hi, Jay. I'm Michael Lee. I'm from the Nerds of Color, and it's finally honored to get to finally meet you, I guess, because we've been kind of interacting with each other on social media.
No,
so
really
it's
nice
great.
to meet you. Really nice to meet you finally.
Yeah. So I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day. I know it's kind of a challenging time. So I hope it gets resolved soon and everything, because I know it's important for all the writers to get their voices out and get the proper compensation that they deserve. So
thank you so much
about that.
Your support means a lot.
You helped amplify Asian voices a few years back on your Twitter accounts. I just wanted to know that you helped me as well. And so it feels like Gremlins is also a way that you can expand upon that mythology of the story of Gremlins, and then also kind of amplifying Asian representation. So specifically Chinese culture. I just wanted to know what that experience has been like for you, not only to tell the Gremlins side of the story, but also kind of reclaim what has been expressed in ugly stereotypes in the original kind of films.
So, one of the things that we're really proud of with the show was 10 years ago, and certainly 20 years ago, even if there were Asians in front of the camera, there maybe were not Asian or Asian American creators behind the camera. And, we felt very supported by our studio and network to hire like Asian American writers, Asian American artists, and the crew is incredibly diverse, and we're really proud of that. And to be able to tell a Gremlin story set in Asia with Asian creators, but also like a Asian cast, I thought was just a real opportunity, and I feel very lucky to be living at this point in time, and to have all these incredible Asian American artists to be able to work with.
On that note, there seems to be a contemporary message as well. Sam's the kind of kid who respects his parents but also idolizes his or adores his grandfather. And then there's Elle, there's a street smart kid who's had it rough. both kind of represent two sides of the same coin. I was just wondering, what's it like to bring that sort of representation in media, given the show setting? And can you talk about what was it like to kind of put those, I guess, themes or those concepts into the show?
I think that we always want to portray a family that was kind of different than Asian families have been represented, typically, especially in period films and TV shows, where they're more kind of like a family like I grew up in, where their parents might be supportive and affectionate, but at the same time, there's obviously always, parental and children conflicts that I think that's across all cultures. And we love the idea of creating a grandfather character who was funny and idiosyncratic and weird and like he's played by James Hong, so he's going to be
course.
give like a
Yeah.
very like funny and weird or idiosyncratic performance. But it is one of those things when we talked about it in the writers' room, what do we want to do? Not just in terms of like the Gremlins mythology, it's a Gremlins story, what type of action adventure story do we want to tell, but also, what have we seen before and how do we kind of want to subvert that? And part of it was one of the first conversations we had in the writers' room was, it would be great to go through like however many seasons of this show that we get and never have the characters mention the word honor even one time. It's not their
Right.
motivation. They don't say it. They have their own hopes and dreams that have nothing to
Yeah.
do with honoring their ancestors.
Mhm.
And, I think freeing ourselves from, trying to do some of those things that I think we've seen before was definitely a goal in the writers' room.
So you mentioned James Hong, and then we also got Ming-Na Wen and BD Wong, and then now we have also Izaac as well. So I was wondering, what was it like to, I guess, cast these wonderful actors who can not finally see ourselves in these characters, I guess, in a new way as well.
I mean, one of the most incredible things, just even seeing the names of the cast, all up against each other at the end of the trailer. I mean, these are people that I looked up to, and I would always pick out, you're watching a movie and you see James Hong, you pick him out immediately. And with BD and Ming-Na, those were actors that I had really looked up to. They're really like heroes, they are heroes of mine.
Yes.
And to be able to have a cast that's not just on that end of the spectrum, people who are really established and have huge followings, but also more up and comers. Our younger cast is incredible as well. And to just see them interact, I mean, in the voice booth, to see James Hong, having been in hundreds of movies and TV shows, and Izaac, who's a 10-year-old kid, and seeing that breadth of experience was really interesting, and seeing them interact is really touching, honestly.
So I wanted to talk about the animation a little bit. You talked a little bit on earlier interviews that it kind of draws to the art of books, kind of conceptualized art. I was wondering how you landed on that specific kind of medium, a visual medium, I guess.
So, what we wanted to do was to be able to move the camera cinematically. Things like Goonies, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Gremlins, the camera moves in a very specific way. And, the inspiration for this show, besides Gremlins, obviously, which is, the source of everything, were those Amblin movies. And so in order to do that, we wanted to make sure that we developed a technology and an art style that would speak to that. And part of it was also wanting to create a look that was very organic. Something like Spirited Away was a huge influence on the show. And that was kind of our guiding principle. We wanted something that felt kind of handmade. And Dan Kroll, our supervising producer, who did a lot of the early concept art for the show, he was the one who brought up, let's make it look like an art of concept book. And then what was really incredible was Tara Ruping, who was our art director. Every time we would write something in a script, she would just make it like so much bigger and more epic and so much more, colorful and beautiful. And it's one of the fun things about working in animation. It's just like, there's the words on the page, but then as it goes through all the layers of development, you just see it become better and better because you have all these really talented artists working on it.
So going back to the Gremlins aspect of it, what made you want to go back to Gremlins? Because it's been almost like 30 years since we've actually seen them on any kind of screen, at least.
I mean, I think that for me and our other executive producer, Brendan Hay, and for all the writers, we're fan people first. And, we wanted to create something that would appeal to fans of the original movies, but also bring in new fans. I mean, it's the show that we wish that, it's certainly for me personally, in a very deep way, the show that I wish that I had growing up. And the fact that this is set in 1920s China, and I can bring all of my background, hearing about these when I was a kid, these Chinese spirits and creatures and monsters and Chinese mythology to American audiences. I mean, that has been a dream of mine forever. And even when I was writing the title page of this script, the pilot script, and I got to write, note, unless otherwise noted, all characters are Chinese. I never really, in my wildest imaginations, believed that I could do that for, a major streaming platform or network or major studio. And the fact that we were given that opportunity, I'm incredibly thankful for. And I think it speaks to this time and place that we're in right now.
Oh yeah, I agree, because I appreciate what you've been doing, because we can, especially the Asian American community and Asians are everywhere as well, they can see themselves in these characters, and I love and I appreciate that you add more layers to it with the mythology aspects of it as well. On that note, there's some aspects of the music, I guess this is not so much a spoiler, but there's like Chinese operatic music in this. So what was that like, adding just another layer of that representation into these episodes?
I mean, Sherry Chung, our composer, is absolutely incredible. And, hearing the music that she put together for the show, and beyond that, even, she did we use some of Jerry Goldsmith's original score from the Gremlins movies, but we use Chinese instrumentation to perform it. And that's what the title sequence for the show uses. And, for us, it was in every aspect of this project, wanting to bring Chinese culture to American audiences and to showcase, some of these instruments may seem foreign to American audiences who maybe have not heard it before, but to me, it still gives you the same emotion. And that was one of the things that was really nice about working with Sherry, is just, while she uses Chinese instrumentation, it really is a universal sound. And I hope that the audiences really respond to it, because she did incredible work.
Thank you so much, Tze.
Thank you so much.
I mean, it's been great to talk to you, and hopefully I can share this with everybody. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. It's really nice to meet you over Zoom.
Nice to meet you. Hopefully we can meet each other face to face one day. Okay. Hi, Gabrielle and Izaac. I'm Michael Lee. I'm from the Nerds of Color. How's everyone doing?
Fantastic. Thanks for having us.
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to let you know, as someone who's like grown up on the series, it's incredible to actually see it come back. So how familiar are you with both of these films before you came onto the project?
So my dad actually, he put on Gremlins as a family movie night movie. And by chance, a couple of weeks later, I got the audition for the project. So it's kind of funny how everything just kind of worked out research wise, but I was always really familiar with the franchise. You see the t-shirts, the lunch boxes, all the merchandising. It's a film that my parents grew up on, so I was familiar with the term Gremlin and Mogwai and Gizmo. But yeah, I'm really excited to be a part of the next generation of Gremlins and bring it to my generation who maybe hasn't seen the film yet and isn't familiar with Gizmo and all of his adventures. So it's an exciting time for both of us.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's like, unlike Gabrielle, I was not as prepared. I probably should have been more prepared. I watched the film when I was really young, And then once I got the audition, I was just like, oh, Gremlins, I fondly remember that. And then once I actually started getting into the process of, getting the job and stuff, I rewatched the movie and I was just like, oh, right, this movie, the one with the massive fan base behind it. I should probably take this a little bit more carefully. And so, yeah, I mean, now I'm more like, I'm more uh, I know more about it. I think I could talk to a Gremlins fan mediocrely and somewhat carry on the conversation.
Well, hopefully there's I can prove my fanage to both of you, because getting to talk to people who are working on this is such a delight, I guess. So it's incredibly exciting to see this origin stories in a way that reminds us how impactful their presence is on pop culture, but also reminds us how important representation is. Can you guys talk a little bit about what you thought of when you saw how the Gremlins would be presented in such a way and told, the story would be told in such a way?
Yeah, you want to take this, Isaac?
Sure. I mean, I think it's represented in a way that of course, it's more obviously it's more towards a child audience, right?
Mhm.
Like a children's audience, but it could be interpreted for adults as well because they could just they could like remember or reminisce on the show, or you could have all the people who really like to dig deep into the lore because there is a bunch of Easter eggs in the actual
Yeah.
show itself. So I think it's represented in a way where it's like it's not too childish, but it's also not too scary for kids because it is a comedy horror type show.
Yeah, there are some moments I can't. I was told a list of things I can't spoil, but yeah, there are some moments where like, oh my gosh, they went there after
Yeah.
seeing certain episodes. I was surprised. What Given that you've been this is a voiceover work, were there any opportunities for both of you to do any improv maybe?
I know I improved a lot in the beginning of the season, but as time went on, I kind of just stuck to the script because the story was becoming more and more intricate and more vivid and interesting, and the words on the page were already exactly what they needed to be. They didn't need any extra pizzazz or anything like that. So I just kind of stuck to the script probably halfway through this first season. But definitely in the beginning, I definitely showed off my personality a little bit.
And for you, Isaac?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was kind of boring. I just stuck to the script most of the time. I just followed directions. I said, sir, yes, sir, ma'am, yes, ma'am. I followed directions just like I was told.
Well, you're not so boring because you guys got some pretty cool on-screen parents, I guess. Well, for Gabrielle, you have Matthew Rhys, and then for Isaac, you have PD Wong and Ming-Na Wen and James Hong. So what was it like to find out that those will be your, I guess, on-screen parents?
Pretty awesome.
Okay. That's that. So I was wondering if you have any kind of kinship with your characters. Like, do you have anything that you have in common with them, or did you discover something along the way that said, "Oh, I'm kind of like that"? So yeah.
You know, something that I didn't realize that Elle and I kind of had in common, we're both stubborn. We're both very stubborn and opinionated, which is great in some areas, and in other areas it's really not. But Elle and I we're polar opposites. If you just look from the outside looking in, she's she's had kind of a hard upbringing. You know, she was abandoned as a child and she has a lot of emotional barriers. Whereas I come from a very happy home, and
Well,
I love talking to people and making friends and spread love. And Ella's kind of the opposite of that. She doesn't really like people much, and she's a fighter, quite literally. So there's a lot that we have that it just they don't line up. We're very different, and I think that's kind of the fun part of voicing a character like this is dipping into a different side of myself that maybe I didn't know I had, or maybe I'm telling a story that someone else can relate to.
so I have only 1 minute left. Since this is kind of a buddy trip kind of show as well, what's the like kind of the essential things you have to bring on these kind of trips if you were to go on one as epic as this?
Beef jerky.
Okay.
Beef jerky. I was gonna say like a knife or something, like a weapon to protect myself.
Beef jerky. You could let it dry in the sun. You could throw it at people. You could eat it. You could use it to start a fire. It's the best. Beef jerky
Okay.
or duct tape.
What was that?
Duct tape. Beef
Oh,
jerky.
duct tape. Okay, well, yeah, there's that saying about duct tape, but yeah. So, all right. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to interview, do this interview. I'm going to tell everyone to watch it because I love these episodes. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Fanboys, professional artists, and professors. Maybe a nerd who's just like you, talking about the things that you like too. So I invite you to the NOC. In full color, you see me. The hard knock life, comics, movies, and TV. Yeah, pop culture with a different perspective. Watch it on your screen, hit play, so check this.